A goal of a substantial portion of riders on any given track day is to ride faster than they did previously. In this video, we're going to talk about a more ideal approach to your riding to see improvement over time and why simply riding hard can be counterproductive. Like in any sport, in order to become a better rider of the track, riders need to become more competent with the skills and tools they have at their disposal over time, which will naturally yield the results thereafter. However, an issue riders come up against on that quest to reach a higher level is that they don't approach their efforts to improve in the right way. Most commonly, they attempt to reach a higher level simply by pushing and riding harder. But here's why that's not the best idea. Many riders will head out for a riding session with the simple goal of trying to ride faster by forcing themselves through boundaries all over the track. This typically results in little progress being made, and the progress that is made most often comes at the expense of composure, the application of various skills, and sometimes safety. Now, most riders can be forgiven for this approach simply because they don't know any different, though I have encountered some riders who believe that the only lessons they need should come from getting out onto the track and riding. No one can teach you anything off track, they say. It's certainly a brave, hairy-chested approach, but one I would advise everyone against if crashing is not something you're particularly fond of. To liken this to a different sport, it's like a golfer trying to add 50 yards to their drive simply by swinging harder off the tee. They may achieve that goal, but it's likely only to remain inbounds 1 time out of 10. In reality, it's the more measured approach of learning about the swing mixed with conscious and controlled practice to reach a competent standard that is going to yield better results long term, and mean you become a better all-round golfer too. And it's much the same with riding. Learning about the sport and then spending a dedicated amount of time operating at a level that lets you put that stuff into practice is going to mean better results long term, as well as mean you're operating with a bigger safety margin when you do reach that next level. When you simply ride hard, there's very little space for conscious application, which is crucial for improving a skill, let alone the mental space to actually note what you're experiencing and if it's working. But what does riding within your limit mean? If you've consumed anything of Keith Code of the California Superbike School, you'll know that this is a big part of their philosophy. They recommend operating at around 75 to 80% of your riding limit when working to improve riding skill for all the reasons I just mentioned. But I know the notion of going slow to go fast doesn't sit right with a lot of riders, because I hear the same stories all the time. They head to the track with the good intentions of conscious practice, but end up throwing it all out the window and riding hard as they attempt to force the speed. I also know this because it was a problem for me, not because I didn't believe it was the correct way, but rather my impatience to ride faster now overrode my desire to practice a particular skill with the view of getting faster later. The thing is, riding away from your personal limit doesn't have to mean riding like the postman on a sunny Monday morning ride. You can still be fast and ride at a lower limit. Your riding limit doesn't necessarily mean your speed. Riding within your limit is all about giving yourself time and attention. Time and attention to actually practice the skill without feeling rushed and to note the outcome you're getting. Perceived time and attention is largely sapped by how we brake and enter a corner. Depending on what you're working on, this might mean using a more modest braking point or level of braking, or reducing how much you attack the corner with speed. By altering your approach in these areas to free up a little mental time and attention, your ability to actually do the thing you need to do to progress is improved substantially. What's more, it isn't uncommon for riders using this approach to achieve a higher speed in little time, even while they sit further inside their personal limit. This is because they realize that their previous attacking approach was actually detrimental to their speed. Maybe their sense of speed improved with the extra attention, meaning they could roll more speed into the corner, or maybe the mental space allowed them to use a line that got more from the corner, for instance. In any case, it's entirely possible to make just as quick, if not quicker progress while sitting inside your riding limit, and before you know it, your old 100% becomes your new 80%. So should we ever force speed? All of what I'm talking about here is about giving yourself a better platform to improve the skills that are going to keep you safe, as well as create a better foundation for higher speeds later down the line. With that said, there are times when you simply must push past a barrier by forcing speed. Whether it's using more braking potential, leaning the bike more, or using more throttle at corner exit. In my experience, true confidence in areas like these can only be gained by pushing through the previous limit and experiencing that new level firsthand. The key here is to learn that level of control first by operating within your limits before adding that surplus of speed to the equation. For example, at corner entry, this would mean learning how to steer and where to look so that you can hit your spots and create the line you want before you attempt to push your entry speed limit. Or maybe learning how to correctly apply the brakes and the structure of your braking efforts before trying to become lord of the late breakers. For learning riders, the limit is raised by reaching a higher degree of competence in the fundamental skills of riding, and it is working within that limit that most enables you to reach a higher degree of competence. A tough pill to swallow for riders that want to go fast now, but a necessary one for those that want to become safe, consistent, and technically sound as well as fast. Have you had any breakthroughs in the best ways to apply your skills on the track? Tell us about it in the comments down below. And as always, if you liked the video, then please be sure to hit the button and subscribe to the channel for more performance riding advice and guides moving forward. As always, I'll see you in the next one.